They kept their cool and acted professionally, which is a far cry from pampering the perp and taking him to Burger King after arresting him. Keyboard warriors wanna come at me. The internet is kind of a weird place. And Facebook is sort of the place where all the weirdos go. And they join these groups on there. And I haven't seen anybody make a video about this particular group, white people doing something. Now,
in my opinion,
they're the most racist group, one of the most racist groups on the internet. Now, let's just read the about of this group. White People Doing Something is a group for people who identify as white and or have white skin privilege to do our own work with guidance and coaching from black people. It provides white people an environment and opportunity to authentically and critically engage in whiteness, white privilege, and hold each other accountable for change. We explore how to recognize whiteness and white privilege, identify and interrupt white internalized dominance, and collectively develop strategies for liberation and transformation. Wow.
So much to unpack.
These people must think white people don't have any problems ever. And we just skate through life because got that white skin, baby. Like, I could get on board with it if it was like, if they were talking about coming from the lower class, because that's where I originally come from. You know, I grew up in a single parent household and we didn't have money growing up. I could sort of get on board with it then and it'd be like, okay, well, there is sort of this class privilege that people have. It's got nothing to do with the colour of your skin.
This is fucking stupid.
Like, if you're a poor white person, you got to work just as hard as a poor black person. You know, but you get into these groups and they just come up with the most ridiculous shit. The group is basically run by an interracial lesbian couple. I've got no problem with anyone who's homosexual or anything like that, the trans community. I have no problem with it. What I have a problem with is people playing the race card and playing up to an audience really for attention. And this is what I think this group has done. One's name's Aja. I don't know what a girlfriend is. Basically, Aja, she went to Georgetown University. Now, I'm not from America and I don't know a lot about America, but I've heard of Georgetown University. And as it turns out, Georgetown University is considered to be a hidden Ivy League school. And hidden Ivy League, like there's only 8 Ivy League schools. It's your Harvards and stuff, right? So she is the upper class. These are upper class people telling us about our privilege. Like, if you've grown up poor, you know, you're getting told now by these people, well, you need to listen to black people like me, who are privileged and have been to, you know, these elite universities.
Because you're actually the privileged one. It's actually not me.
She goes on about, in one of her videos, the racist history of Georgetown. Had she known it at the time, I never would have attended Georgetown. It's like, you would have went. You know you would have went. Because you could tell everybody you went to Georgetown. The group attracts a lot of weird people.
To say the least.
A lot of it has to do with social issues, change, and that. But sometimes they post stuff about domestic that I find
appalling.
The comments itself are appalling. Now, I'm going to get into this and I'm going to do a trigger warning for anybody who may be triggered. We are going to be discussing domestic. For those of you who have experienced it, I think you're going to be pretty shocked at what these women actually think about DV when it comes to race. The post this person has is, my parents heard shouting, you bitch, and kids screaming. It was that bad that the neighbours called the police and her parents called the police. Now, she seemed to think it was the house that a black couple lived in. And she was like,
well, you know, I don't know if you should have called the police on them because, you know, they're black. You know, cops are going to come in there and fucking kill everybody.
This is their way. This is what they think. They think that the cops are just going to show up and just
fucking kill everybody.
And she goes on to say, I doubt I'm going to be able to convince them that calling the police was the wrong move. No, you're not going to be able to convince them that because it was
the right fucking move.
It turns out that the people my parents called about wasn't the house I thought it was. They are white people who have a history of volatile behaviour. Thank God for that, they were white. So this person's asking the big questions, you know what I mean? Like, if your neighbour's black and you hear her getting a fucking shit beat out of her by a black boyfriend, should you call the cops? So one of the first comments I saw was from Jess. In my experience, calling the police can be a death sentence. Really? In your experience, in your upper middle class white experience, it can be a death sentence? What, is that because of all the Facebook groups you join where they carry on about fucking shit that, you know?
It's been proved to be wrong.
And they're just race baiting? Is that your experience, is it, Jess? Is it?
Come on.
Emily says, I'm surprised to see so many people question the issue of calling the police. We see every day how little the police value black lives. Calling someone a bitch is awful, but it shouldn't be a death sentence. This is a woman, a white woman saying this.
Now this cuckolded fella,
He replied to Emily's response and he says, I have this nagging feeling that a number of the commentators here didn't grasp the racial subtext. They seem to be interpreting it as an internal debate between calling the police and minding your own business. Bruh. And missing the implications of what calling the cops portends in far too many instances involving non-whites. This is a white man. I had to look up portends as well, and it's be a sign or warning that is likely to happen. So the police show up and stop the domestic? Is that what you're saying? Tamika replied to Emily's comment as well, and she says, Ma'am, I'm black, and I would call the police. That's their job.
How do you know all that?
So throughout the thread, and I'm not going to show every comment because it's going to be boring as fuck, a lot of people are talking about the police on black people and shootings and all that sort of stuff. So I've come up with this little segment called... I just googled people shot to death by US police by race 2021. Now, you come to a website called Statista. Now, this is people shot from 2017 to 2021. White people are dominating. We're dominating that shit by getting killed by police. You could probably take the Hispanic people and put them on top of the black people shot by police, and in the same year, the white people still are winning. We're still winning that one.
We're killed more by police.
So I don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, I don't think these people really look at statistics. I think they go off
Feelings. And I've noticed within the group, most of them are white women.
a lot of them are lesbians and feminists, and I got nothing against lesbians or feminists. But, you know, at least look at the facts of something.
Knowledge.
Chelsea says, I agree in feeling the way you do. I feel the same. I also agree that there is a loss for what else we can do, especially in the situation you described.
It's not fucking hard. Call the cops.
There really isn't another option currently, which is why defund the police is an important movement. Police are underfunded already. Jesus, and you want to defund them. I love these people that say that. Have you ever looked at their profiles? They're the weakest looking people in the world. It's like, you need the cops. Like, are you serious? You want to live in a world without police? You're going to get eaten alive. They clearly have never watched any fucking prison documentaries. Because that's what it would be. You're going to be someone's bitch. Gabrielle says, I personally might ask someone I know to go over there with me and knock on the door to see if everything is okay. It's risky for sure, but it won't put someone else's life in danger. That wasn't doing anything.
Not doing anything!
Money beat the shit out of him, I'm not doing anything!
If there is a domestic situation going on, then the person I tagged to come with me would be right there to call someone else in too. Hopefully that someone is a social worker instead of a cop. Could you imagine being a fucking social worker? Oh my god, you'd be reading this guy. No.
Fuck, that's not what I do.
So I googled what social workers do. Social worker. Social workers usually see people when they're facing some sort of crisis, such as family, homelessness, or mental health issues. Doesn't say anything about fucking...
De-escalating a situation.
Kelly says, as a former police officer, being called to intervene in a domestic situation is what they are trained to do.
Really? I had no idea.
Mental health workers and social workers are not, nor are they equipped to confront a violent situation.
I had no idea.
I guess fucking common sense does prevail. I can assure you most violent encounters were with white males, and the higher the income, the more privileged they acted.
I'm fucking surprised.
Women were more violent towards me in those situations than men. I bet you there's a lot of women in this group that she's fucking talking about. advice is nothing to ignore, nor is it a situation that someone who is not trained to intervene should place themselves in. Now, this is from a cop saying this. She's saying don't fucking go over there and try and be a hero. But the thing is, a lot of these people are talking shit because you know full well they wouldn't go over anyway. They're just going to fucking turn the TV up and shut the window.
They don't give a shit.
Kay Lee says, I really hate outing myself here, but I'm a police SWAT wife. I'm not afraid of him going on most calls, but I can tell you I am much more afraid of him going on a domestic call than any other type of call. They are relatively unpredictable, volatile, far more dangerous for everyone involved, including the police. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but she goes on to talk about one time her husband,
Who's SWAT?
went to a domestic call and the father killed his own son, his little boy. These people, like, what are you fucking thinking? Like, these people that are for not calling the cops on your neighbour because they're black? You just rather her get killed?
It's crazy.
Now, I know someone who went through a pretty messy divorce recently and there was domestic involved, and she wasn't believed by the police. Like, she was upset she wasn't believed by the police. Now, this is a very educated woman, and she was upset about that. And I'm like, well, you know...
There are a lot of women that lie about that shit.
Now, unfortunately, because you've got dickhead neighbours like this who don't call the police when they hear a domestic over at your place,
there's no record of it. You know what I mean? So if people are calling the cops and there's a record of it, when they go through court, family court, they can stop the guy getting, 50% custody. And in this case, the kids didn't want to see their dad. But, she had no proof that there was domestic going on there. Probably because she had fuckwit neighbours like these people online here. So
don't ever call the cops on black people because,
Check this one out.
instead of begging your parents, fight to lower the voting age to 12. And also show them this. www.aworldwithoutpolice.org. Are these people fucking serious? A world without police and lower the voting age to 12. So also in the group, you get these people clearly lying. Like, just, they want to big note themselves to an audience, and it's fucking hilarious. This is probably one of the funniest ones I've seen. Last September on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m, I heard a lawnmower start up next door, which woke me up and I stomped out there to get it to stop.
I was not happy.
Anyway, she goes on about fucking the lawn service coming at 8 a.m. On Sunday, and anyway, she approaches the guy on the fucking lawnmower and is fucking going off her head, and apparently she didn't notice he was black, right? Like, fucking who can tell, right? And she's there, the guy from the lawn service ripped off his mask and hat and I saw he was black. I went from being ticked off and yelling to
absolutely terrified for his safety in a microsecond.
like she's gonna call the cops and go, listen, this guy came way too early and they're gonna show up with guns and just
Get on the ground.
start fucking pumping bullets into the lawnmower, man. Oh my god. Crystal, wake up to yourself. Clearly a bullshit story. But she did have several commentators. Erica says,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank God fucking cops could shut up and fucking killed him, eh?
Heather says, wait, this was a lawn service, so not your actual neighbour, because in that case, they are hired to do a job and you should take up the noise disturbance with your neighbour, not people just trying to do their job no matter what race they are. And she's there like, right, not my neighbour. Thankfully the service has been coming out later since then. That never happened. Brandy is my favourite social justice warrior. Shout out. I've witnessed shoplifting in grocery stores and drug deals in parking lots. I live in a very small southern town that is still self-segregated. I do not call the police in either situation. People are hungry and trying to feed their families, but explaining that to older white people is hard. Fucking ally there, man.
I'd say nothing.
Say fucking nothing.
Kelly says, if you don't want to call the police and or go knock on the door in the moment, it could be a good idea to go later the next day. Maybe you can help him with the body. Kim says, I believe regardless of what colour the perpetrator is, if a woman, regardless of her colour, is being attacked, we need to send protection. Spot on. Now, she's gone and replied to her own comment. Unfortunately, some cops tend to arrest both the victim and the perpetrator in these situations because there's so much sexism in this world. And they go up to the guy and like,
Was your dinner cold, mate?
Yeah, it was cold.
Well, fuck, mate. What does she expect?
Sonia says the victim may be arrested if he has outstanding warrants, but not for the actual DV. Not taking away from the awful situation, but there may be more than what is seen. Now that's true, but isn't that a good thing? Like if the cops go over there and the guy has a warrant out for his arrest, they can take him away and let the situation cool down. I mean, she's like, there may be more than what is seen. You don't need to know someone's history, their full fucking history, to be a decent human being and send the cops over if a woman is getting the shit beat out of her and, you know, the kids are screaming in the house. It's just being called a good fucking person. If you witness what might be violence, especially with a child involved, call the police, don't be an idiot.
Couldn't have said it better myself, but...
Comments like that get shut down pretty quickly in groups like this. Chelsea says, there are real people with real live stories in this thread who fear for their lives when the police are called. This conversation has been full of ideas and opportunities for learning, telling people they are idiots for trying to learn how to understand the POV. Person of colour's point of view is basically the exact opposite of what this group is about. You're listening to a handful of fucking people, and I noticed in this group, any black person that says, hey, look, fucking call the cops, what are you doing? They don't really get shown much love. It's only the people who are like, black people who are playing up to the stereotype.
Yeah, don't ever call the cops.
And there are some of them. Hell no, call immediately, every time. Women and children die of domestic violence in America every 30 seconds, and more than 20 women are being abused every minute. Someone with actual fucking statistics here, which is very rare in a group like this. Always call, they need help. And bystanders intervening are 20% of the deaths, so call professionals. Imogen says, this is a very privileged view and answer. You are worried about their abusers killing them, and POC are worried about either of them killing them or their family members in the home, or the police showing up, stirring things up and leaving. What Imogen's saying there is she's saying, she's really fucking stereotyping. People of colour are worried about the cops showing up and killing everybody in the house. What meds are you taking? Because you need to take more, Imogen. Dead set. Stop fucking speaking on behalf of an entire race. I said like there are black people in the group that wholeheartedly agree with never calling the police. Shalina is one of them. I'm friends with closest next door neighbour, which happens to be a white progressive couple from Philadelphia. I basically had them promise me they would never call the police to help me. The only time I appreciate 911 being dialed is for help with a fire or medical emergency, which is an interesting sort of take on things. So if there was a guy banging on your door, or several men banging on your door with machetes trying to rob you, you don't want people calling the police, do you? I think when you get these groups, there are people who like to give it large to an audience, and this is clearly one of them. One thing I might point out too, with people like Shalina saying, you know, giving it large to the audience, you know, reading that from a black woman, people are like, well, that holds water, you know what I mean? Well, I'll put it to you like this. Right now, you can go on the internet and you can find someone that will allow you to take a shit on them during intercourse, okay?
So nothing fucking surprises me.
Teresa says hardcore. Many fights de-escalate, but some really don't. I agree that we as a community need to become more skilled in de-escalation. Really, everybody's going to start taking de-escalation courses, are they? Get fucking real, Teresa. I want to go home, I want to have a beer, and I want to enjoy life with my family. I don't want to be fucking,
You know, putting on my cape at night and going and breaking up fights in the neighbourhood.
Stop fucking kidding yourself.
Jay, I'm pretty certain is a black guy. Literally call out, are you okay? Holler if you need help and I will help. Then keep your ear out. I do believe in calling the police when life, limb or liberty is at stake. DV. So he's basically saying there, I don't really agree with that. Are you okay? Because a lot of women, like,
You better fucking say you're okay.
should be like,
I'm alright.
but what he's saying there, look, if there's a domestic thing going on or an assault or call the cops. That's what he's basically saying. Like,
It's not that fucking hard.
Andrea says, I was in the same situation last summer and I had no idea what to do until one of them asked me to call the police, following for future reference. Someone literally had to tell,
I'm getting the shit beat out of me. Call the cops.
I'll call them. Renee says, this is what defund the police points to. Police are not trained in how to handle mental health issues and detest domestic violence calls. Renee knows this, does she? In all of her fucking experience as a cop, Renee knows police aren't equipped to handle mental health issues. It's sort of the same shit that I hear from people who are like right-wingers, who are like, you know, anti-vax. Like,
Doctors just get told The vaccines are fucking all good.
Like, okay, so you know what a doctor does, do you? Know, you can tell me what a doctor does. You can tell me their day in, day out fucking routine. So they walk into the office and they get told shit. They don't look at fucking statistics. They don't look at anything like that. Reports, they just get told by somebody from the big pharma company.
This vaccine's pretty fucking sweet.
You don't know what they do. You know, you're just speculating. You know, and it's dangerous to be making sort of speculation like that when someone's life could literally be, you know, in danger. Autumn says, if that woman ever chooses to leave, police involvement means a record of something and helps with custody issues. What I was saying earlier. However, I don't know what I would do. Depends. Sort of, you know, yeah, it depends on like how it is. You know, if it's like just, I mean, look, everyone's had an argument with their significant other and the cops shouldn't be called every single time. But if it's an extremely one where things are smashing and kids are screaming, and call the fucking cops, man. Like, be a decent fucking person. Shit. These people clearly didn't fucking read it. Oh, the neighbour's POC? And Shaw was like, I was wondering that too, Chelsea. I see a lot of white people saying they'd call the cops for POC. That can be worse. That can be worse than the situation they are in. I think knowing if they are POC is what would make this scenario one issue or the other. Really? What's the difference between people of colour and coloured people? That's what I want to know. You know, you don't notch everything up to somebody's race. You know, what are you going to do? Like, if you move to a new area, you hear some screaming, you look out, you're like, that guy looks pretty tanned. I better go get my fucking chart that'll tell me, like, all right, hold on, well, he's not exactly black. Yeah, he's probably more of a tan white guy. I'm going to call the cops now. Get fucking real, you idiots. Call the police. If it's a real dangerous fucking situation, call the cops. Like, fuck me dead. Lee, this woman, unbelievable. I'd probably hover outside and make up some BS excuse to knock on their door. Hey, I was taking my evening walk and this $10 bill was in your driveway. Figured you must have dropped it. Every time I need $10, me and the wife would just be like,
Now I'm going to say you bitch and then you scream, alright?
and Lee's going to pop right over with that tenner. What I've sort of gathered a lot from this shit is a lot of these people are fucking like professional bystanders, you know what I mean? They don't give a fuck. If you're black, it's like, well...
Allies. We're allies, man.
Courtney says, I was in an incredibly abusive relationship about 12 years ago and the police had to be called. I was thankful for the people that called because I was almost unconscious and literally being beaten and I couldn't leave or get help in any way. I think this is a difficult thing to address. It's difficult for the fact that, look, people are fucking selfish, man. You know, they don't want to deal with other people's shit. So a lot of these people
I'd fucking round up a posse and go over there.
or call in social workers. That's not their fucking job. They don't deal with fucking dangerous people. Like, I've got a friend of mine, God love him, he's always carrying on about defund the police. And I'm like, you've never been a cop. You've never fucking had to go to a domestic fucking thing. You've never had to go to a car accident where people are dead. You've never had to go and tell family members that their kid's dead. You know, you've never done any of that shit, but yet here you are saying we should defund the police. You don't even know what they fucking do. You know what I mean? And you get these people just making these assumptions about what police or firefighters or doctors or whoever the fuck it is, what they do, and you don't do that job yourself. Now, there are a lot of bullshit artists on the internet, and fuck, man, this group is full of them. Marsha says, a little off subject here, but not really, and I need to say it. The image these last few days that won't go away is the one of a young white in Boulder, shirtless with his leg bleeding, being gently escorted by 3 policemen to their waiting vehicle. He had just killed 10 people, one of whom was a fellow officer and quite probably a friend. I'm glad they didn't beat him up or worse, but aren't we all wondering how different it would have been if he had been black or brown or remotely Middle Eastern looking? This is the guy she's talking about. Laura says in response, Ahmed Al-Alawi Alyssa, the perp, Alyssa, I don't know his name. The perp was born in Syria, according to his Facebook page, and many people would indeed say that he was remotely Middle Eastern looking, as you put it. You wrote that he was gently escorted off, but he had already been shot through the leg and surrendered, removed his clothing and body armor, and he was cuffed. He wasn't escorted to their vehicle. He was put in an ambulance and taken to the hospital. I think it was more of a case of the dude barely being able to walk rather than the police being gentle with him. Jesus. And she goes on about like the fucking Boulder police, and at the end, I love this one. They kept their cool and acted professionally, which is a far cry from pampering the perp and taking him to Burger King after arresting him. Oh, see what I mean? Oh, just off topic. Imagine if he was black.
Yeah,
Imagine with the black man.
So Aja, I really call her the leader of the group. Like her girlfriend's not, she doesn't really have the same presence. But Aja's got a daily action thing, and every Tuesdays they've got listening Tuesdays where white people can't speak. So her daily action for this is Jews of colour. US is becoming more and more diverse, and that by the 2040s, white people will no longer be the majority. We can stop hearing this shit. American Jews are often assumed to be white. Today we take a look at the microaggressions that come from this assumption. Oh my God. Microaggressions assuming Jews are white. Who gives a shit, man? Nobody cares. Like, yeah, there are black Jews. There was that movie where the Israeli fucking special forces, I think, were in Africa getting the black Jews out. People know that there are black Jews. It's just not that fucking common. Well, that's what we think. It's not that common. That's not a microaggression. People don't give a shit. Like, there's people carrying on about stuff that nobody cares about. Anyway, fuck, that was white people doing something. Let me know what you think. See you in the next one.